Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax and enjoy Mr. Mark Bishop Evans.
In a small town north of Salem, I met a fair young girl. Her eyes and hair were black as coal, her skin as white as pearl. She asked me if I'd follow her to where the road did bend. And as we walked down through the night, the song came on the wind. It said, dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Heard 'em singing, dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. As we came down near the bend, a light shone in the sky. There was a bonfire blazing with the flames all reaching high. A dozen wagons circled round, all gathered in a ring. And as we stepped into the light, I heard the people sing. They were singing, dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Heard 'em singing, dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. As we stood together, well, her head began to sway. The more she moved her body, Lord, the more the music played. With laughing eyes, she danced away into the center ring. And all the people clapped their hands and all began to sing. They were singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Heard 'em singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Well, I watched her dance all through the night until the coming day. With all the people gathered round, I overheard one say, you'll never see a girl like her. She'll dance from night till dawn. And as we walked back home alone, I still could hear her song. They were singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. I heard 'em singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. The people singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Heard 'em singing, dance, you gypsy dance, gypsy dance. Gypsy dance.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh. Thanks for tuning in today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman that you just heard is a very well-known musician, singer, songwriter. He hails from the North Shore, but he plays all over the place. He has a long storied history of writing his own songs, performing his own songs, and he has been a solo guy for more years than he probably can remember. He has dabbled in the Christian side of music. He has produced a number of CDs, and some of that music you are going to be hearing today. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you, once again, Mr. Mark Bishop Evans. Mark, welcome aboard. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Frank. It's great to have, to be here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I mean, you came all the way down from Haverhill.
Oh yeah, it was a monster drive.
Yeah, normally, with the big budget we have here at SMAC, we have the helicopter pick you up or the limo.
I was waiting for that, but I would,
Yeah, unfortunately, you came at lunchtime and they were all on break, so
right.
you had to drive down. But
right.
but anyway, it's such a great pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, like I said,
I've been waiting for this for a long time because we share many common acquaintances.
We do. We have some mutual friends.
We do. We have Linda Marks, who has been on here, Jackie Damsky, Mr. Probst. We've had some great people.
Yes.
But for the few people who may not know who you are, why don't you take a couple of minutes and talk a little bit about who you are and your music and whatever you want to throw out there.
My name is Mark Bishop Evans. I live in Haverhill. I was born and raised in Southern California in San Diego.
Wow, okay.
And spent 40 years out there. 20 years in San Diego, and then after I came back from Vietnam, I spent 20 years in the Monterey area, on the Monterey Peninsula. Loved that area. Moved out here in 1990, and been a worship leader in a number of different churches, and in 2012 I laid that down and I started doing more secular music and just produced a new album. I've been writing music since I was 20 years old. I won't tell you how long ago that was, but it was a number of years ago, and so that's pretty much who I am. I play and write music, and I love it, and it's who I am.
Cool. Well, let's jump back a little bit to the California piece. That you were out there for so long, and you've only been here since what, 90? Did you say? Obviously, you were playing music out in California and doing your thing out there. How easy or difficult was that transition musically when you came here, as far as audiences and getting yourself established and getting back on that horse? How easy or difficult was it from that?
It takes time.
It does.
When you move into a new area, either regionally or just in a new area musically, and you look to open up new venues, you have to establish yourself. You have to meet people. Nobody's going to say, come in and play, and when nobody knows you, and nobody's going to show up to see you. They don't want people that come in there and just play to an empty house. So it takes time to develop that kind of rapport with club owners, with coffee house managers, and with other musicians and people.
So you did a lot what most musicians have to do. You pound that pavement, you pound the phones, and you're making a job out of getting a job.
Right, and you come on shows, and and other people get to hear who you are, and so.
Well, I have at least two or three people watch this show, and maybe 5 or 6 follow me on social media. So you at least got half a dozen or so people following you after this show. Now, as far as that, musically again. So let's say when you were playing out there, did you notice a difference in audiences and receptivity? As far as how audiences are in California, because I would think that they're more laid back, more casual. At least so you would think. And then you come here where they're a little bit, in my opinion, more musically adept and a little bit more musically critical.
Right.
Did you run into that?
When I played in California, I played mostly clubs, nightclubs and restaurants.
Okay.
And so playing in nightclubs and restaurants, nobody wants to hear music that you wrote.
Generally
Everybody
true.
wants to hear music that they're familiar with.
Right.
And if they're listening to you at all, they want to hear something they can sing along with. So out in California, even though I was writing and I was recording and doing all that, 90% of what I did was covers.
Okay.
Now coming out here, if you play in bars and restaurants, you run into the same thing here, but there's a much broader spectrum of coffee houses and listening rooms and places where people actually go to hear the musician. Those are the kind of places that I love to play.
Right, I could see that.
You know, and so I kind of try to stay away from the bars and that type of thing. I paid my dues there.
Of course, right.
And so I look for rooms that where people want to hear what you're doing, and I find that there's just a wealth of good musicians and people who are interested in hearing good music out here, and so
True.
it's a blessing and a pleasure to play.
Now, you know, you obviously, you know, the song that you had played to open up the show. How would you describe, you know, your musical style, and where did some of your influences come? And when you do the covers, you know, how did you select from the 9 gazillion songs out there the
Right.
repertoire that you have?
I'm a singer-songwriter.
Right.
That's my style.
Right.
I tend towards folk rock kind of sound. That's what I write.
Right.
A folk rock kind of genre. In picking songs to sing that are covers, I also look for those same kind of guys.
Like
you
who?
know?
Whom would you pick?
Gordon Lightfoot, James Taylor, Cat Stevens, Dan Fogelberg, John Denver. You know,
Couldn't find any good ones. You had a second settle for that second
at
tier.
the second chair,
that
yeah,
second
second
tier,
yeah. So those guys are all people that I look at and I say, that's the kind of thing I want to do.
Did you do any Harry Chapin? Jim
I
Croce?
don't do any. I do Jim Croce. I don't do any Harry Chapin.
Okay.
You know,
Just curious because, you know, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, you know, Chapin, I mean, great
Right.
lyrics and
Right.
great stuff. Just curious.
you know.
Cool.
So yeah.
Now, how, as far as, you know, your creativity part, when you write your own songs, where do you draw your inspiration from your songs?
Sometimes it's just a line that you hear. You know, on my phone I have a note. You know, a notepad, and it's filled with, oh, I heard that line, so I'll write it down. You know, that's a great line. Oh, I like that. You know, and sometimes it'll just start with that. Sometimes it'll start with a concept of something. I wrote when my mom passed away. I ended up writing a song for her, so it was really just a song about
Heartfelt, came from the
her
heart,
life.
yeah.
You know, sometimes it comes out of emotions that way. You know, obviously there's heartbreak songs and breakup songs and
Sure,
all that kind of
sure.
stuff out there, and then people write songs about those things because their emotions are driven to do that. You know, other times you take an idea, a thought process, you know, a story that happened in history, and you can write a song about that. I mean, Gordon Lightfoot was famous for that. The Edmund
Trilogy.
Fitzgerald and
The Wreck of the Edmund,
and you know
the Canadian trilogy, and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
right.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
So yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about your new CD. This is number 5 for you, right?
Number 5.
Number 5. So talk about your new CD and you know, how that came together and maybe some of the songs. Because you're going to play a couple of songs from that
Right.
again
Well, the
today,
first
right?
one I played was off the CD.
Cool.
I'll play at least one more.
Good. Yeah. So talk about that, the development, and is it purely solo, or do you have
No, there's a lot
other
of backup.
musicians?
Yeah,
So talk about that.
I contacted a gentleman named E.J. Willett at Whole Music in Byfield.
Yes.
And E.J. is pretty famous for his ability to play just about anything that has a string on it. And
Yeah, I was going to say, now that you mention that, for some reason I didn't hear the EJ part, and now that you'd mentioned that, yes, I do know who he is.
yeah,
Very well
and
known.
so he liked the songs that I sat down and played, and so he produced the CD. The songs are a combination of songs that I've written. Some of them were written in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
And I rewrote them to bring them into the new
Right.
the new century, and then some of them are new songs that have been written, you know, in the last couple of years, and so there's 11 songs on the CD, and they're kind of a mix of that type of thing. Yeah.
Now, who are some of your accompanists on there?
E.J. Willett.
He's the whole thing, right? So it's EJ.
EJ
He plays
played-
everything, right?
EJ played most of it. The drums, there's 4 tracks with drums, and Dave Maddox.
Sure.
You're familiar
Sure,
with
I'm
that
familiar
name?
with Dave.
Yeah, Dave Maddox played drums on it. Another gentleman played bass on the final cut. His name is Eric Gullickson. His nickname
Doesn't ring
is
a bell.
Snake.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. You ever remember a group called Prometheus?
Yes.
He was the bass player and
Okay.
founding member of Prometheus, so he played bass on one of the songs.
Been around a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, rather than have Mark talk about his music, he is going to get up and play a little for you. So it's my pleasure to reintroduce you. So sit back and relax and listen to Mark Bishop Evans. We'll be right back.
Like daffodils and butterflies, dragon clouds and summer skies, autumn trees and cherry pies, and fishes in the sea. Like Marian and the Robin Hood, or ancient rocking chairs of wood, long before the heartthrob stood in hospitality. Like falling down a rabbit hole, or reading an enchanted scroll, dancing with a mountain troll, or talking with a tree. A sword of steel and armor bright, fires glowing in the night, or leading a most noble fight to keep the kingdom free. And all of these things come true when I just look at you. Everything old is new. How can that be? Listen, my heart just sings, soars through the sky on wings reserved for gods and kings, and now they're for me. Like waking to an elven song and finding out that you belong to a family both kind and strong, where all are wise and free. All these feelings in me rise, and more that I cannot disguise, when I get lost within your eyes and live my fantasies. And all of these things come true when I just look at you. Everything old is new. How can that be? Listen, my heart just sings, soars through the sky on wings reserved for gods and kings, but now they're for me. Listen, my heart just sings, soars through the sky Why don't we talk? Say what's on our minds. Quit the walking blind. Go out and take a walk and just talk. Why don't we smile? Open up the doors. Try for something more. Cuddle for a while and just smile. Why don't we touch? Oh baby, try and break the ice. Nothing too precise. I want so very much. Just touch. The sun and moon, they are waiting for the sign. And the stars above, they're only passing time till you're mine. Why don't we kiss? Listen for the bells. Honey, who can tell? We don't know what we missed till we kiss. The sun and moon, they are waiting for the sign. And the stars above, they're only passing time till you're mine. Well, I know we're in love. The truth is plain to see. Forever you and me. Thank the stars above. We're in love. Thank the stars above. We're in love. Thank the stars above. We're in love.
Wow. Mark,
Thank you.
nicely done, my friend.
Thank you, I
Nicely
appreciate it.
done. I told you that you were not going to be disappointed. So Mark, one of the enemies that we have here on the show is the clock.
All right.
We could sit and talk for hours because you're such an interesting guy. And so let's take a couple of minutes and quickly talk about your association with the veterans and a lot of the charity work that you do, which is very commendable. And I think that it's noted that people should know some of the work that you do and your veterans and how you help people out. So take a minute and talk about that.
Okay. Well, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and so there's a special place in my heart for my brothers and sisters. And I ride a motorcycle, and I ride with veterans groups. Throughout the summer here in New England, there are just about every weekend there's a motorcycle ride that raises money for a veterans organization, the homeless veterans or the wounded vets. I mean, the list goes on.
Right.
And in addition to that, there's a lot of rides that are geared towards raising money to help kids, brain tumor, Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and other cancer-related things for children. So I try to give to that during all summer long. Another thing that I'm part of is a group called Stride and Ride. It is a relay that was started here in this area that every year in September it leaves from Logan Airport and goes 911 miles.
Nice.
And it's a combination of motorcycle riders, runners, and bicycle riders that relay this 911 miles. And they carry with them memorabilia of the people who have lost their lives during 9/11, also the soldiers that have lost their lives as a result of the Iraq and Afghanistan, and so I stay involved with those kinds of things because it's a heart thing for me.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service, and I'm sure that many people thank you for everything that you do.
Okay.
So Mark, how can people get a hold of you, and how can people purchase your music and CDs and all that stuff? We're going to show a picture of your CD, and we'll have all the information on screen, but quickly.
I'm all the normal outlets. Mark Bishop Evans on iTunes, Mark Bishop Evans on Amazon, Mark Bishop Evans on CD Baby, my website, markbishopevans.net. All of those places are places you can find the music. I'm on Spotify, Mark Bishop Evans on Spotify. So.
Cool. I turned on my toaster oven the other day, and your music started playing.
Not surprising.
Well, Mark, first of all, thank you so much for coming on today. I mean, I wish that we could sit and talk for another half an hour or so.
Yeah.
So as I always say, that means that unfinished stories need to be refinished, so you're going to have to come back another time.
I'd love to.
And you
Thank
can
you,
join
Frank.
the Repeat Offenders Club.
Okay. Yes, okay.
Well, we just had a guy on.
Do you have bracelets for that?
Yeah, we have guys with repeat offenders. You know, we don't do it the Saturday Night Live thing. You know, we don't give you the robe or the smoking room or any of that stuff. You know, but thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank
And
you.
ladies and gentlemen, as always, Mark is out there playing for you. So I always encourage you to support your local musicians. I could not do this show without the help and work of my two esteemed directors. First, award-winning Roxanne Morse and her assistant director, Lorene Kubek, who push the buttons and make us look and sound pretty. So for everyone here at SMAC, for Mark, I am Frank Walsh. As always, tune in and tune on.